as Tyler Madwid. He's been a member of WestCon Toastmasters since January of this year. He's a native of Bethel and a 2003 graduate of Worcester School. More recent, so I guess you've been in this library, right? More recently, Tyler's graduated from Quinnipiac University with a Master's of Science in Information Technology. He currently works for PricewaterhouseCoopers in IT project assurance, and Tyler will be giving his second speech from the Competent Communication Manual, Organize Your Speech. Stuttering is so this is interesting. I was fascinated by this. Stuttering is a speech disorder that affects more than 3 million Americans. As a stutterer for over 20 years, Tyler is going to share with us firsthand how overcoming a speech disorder has inspired him to become a successful public speaker. So welcome, Tyler Madwid.
No,
About my background?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to do it, but why don't,
later.
no,
Okay.
go ahead. Why don't you
Sure.
do it? So, yes, so one of the things I had asked the speakers through email was to tell something before they started their speech about their heritage and what culture they had come from, background.
Okay. Mom's side is Swedish, dad's side is Irish, hence the pale and blonde hair. That's basically it. So, awesome Swedish meatballs at Christmas. Irish food, not so much.
Thank you.
So I'd like to start with a story that I heard recently, and it's about a man named Larry. And Larry, he had a stutter, a quite bad stutter. But one day he wanted to get a job, of course, and the job was a Bible salesman. So he went on an interview. The business owners were a little skeptical, but they said to Larry, if you can sell these 12 Bibles by the end of the week, come on back and we can discuss a full-time position. So Larry goes out, comes back about 6 hours later, and he says, sold them all. So they're shocked, of course. They want to go with him the next day and see how he does it. So Larry comes to the first door, he knocks on the door, he says, morning, sir, would you like to buy this Bible from me, or would you like me to read it to you? Fellow Toastmasters, I'm a Toastmaster, and our guest. How many of you personally know someone that stutters? Or have you stuttered before? Have you ever stuttered before? Great, I'm glad to hear that. I'm here to tell you more about a condition that many are embarrassed to share. And as a lifelong stutterer myself, I'd like to give you my story and my background on something that's really personal for me. So hopefully it should be educational, and hopefully you can take something from this. So I'd like to do that by using 3 points. The first point will be a background and facts about stuttering, so we can get off on the right foot. Second, I'd like to give you my story as a stutterer and what I did to overcome my stuttering and why I'm here today. And third, I'd like to wrap it up by giving you some advice on what to do with stutterers in your life, or somebody that you encounter that has a stutter. So the Stuttering Foundation defines stuttering as a speech disorder that disrupts the flow of speech, that is broken by repetitions, prolongations, or abnormal stoppages in speech. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. We do that when we're nervous. Stutterers do this all the time. It's uncontrollable at times. Folks that have a more serious stuttering problem may display facial or body movements associated with the effort to speak. You may have seen this before. So, some facts on stuttering. I did mention 3 million people in America, that's a lot. Well, it's 68 million people worldwide. This is something that we don't usually talk about. It's really not something that we hear much about. So 4 out of 10 of these people have been denied a job, a promotion, or a school opportunity because they have a speech problem. 66% of them say that their speech has kept them from pursuing certain goals in life, or they've avoided certain jobs because of their speech. Stuttering affects 4 times as many males as females. It's too bad for me. Genetics is 60% of the reason why people stutter. This comes from genetics. We don't know the reason why. And lastly, 5% of children go through a period of stuttering that lasts up to 6 months to a year as a child. 3/4 of them recover later on in childhood, leaving about 1% who are stuck with a lifelong problem. That would be me. So let's move on. Symptoms resulting from stuttering, and I've experienced some of these, not all of these, but it could range. Low self-esteem, anxiety and panic, frustration, embarrassment, confusion, guilt, anger, shame, and social phobias. I said for a stutter, it's really hard to socialize. As I mentioned, we still don't know why stuttering occurs, and this is why speech therapy, which is the most common treatment for stuttering, is really an exercise in trial and error. And little be known, stuttering is not the cause or is not the result of emotional or psychological problems. Stutterers are just as smart, if not smarter than anybody else. It's not a learning disability, it's just a speech problem. So, moving on to our second point. How did I get to where I am today? Many don't notice that I have a stutter. When I tell people that I have a stutter, many really are surprised or not. They don't understand why I'm telling them that, but I do. I do have a stutter. I control it quite well. I've been dating Marissa for 5 years in December. It took us a year until I told her that I had a stutter. Didn't notice. That's how well I can control it. I just kind of have to prepare myself. So, I started stuttering when I was about 6 years old, and it got worse as I went into school, and the anxiety of going to school. Stuttering is very anxiety-driven, so doing presentations, reading out loud, and saying my name were very serious endeavors. Saying your name for someone that stutters is the most difficult thing ever. It may seem like a very easy thing for you guys to do, but stuttering your name is really the most difficult thing. So when I couldn't say my name, people would say, "What did you do, forget your name?" And that was the worst feeling ever. That's the most embarrassing thing. I don't do that anymore. It does happen, but stuttering on my name is probably the hardest thing for any stutterer to do. I was in speech therapy for most of my childhood up until about 6th grade, until I came to Worcester, at which point it kind of improved. I got more comfortable in school. But when I did speak, I spoke rapidly because I was trying to sprint to my point so quickly that I couldn't piece my words together properly. I just wanted to get out whatever I had in my mind. Stuttering, unfortunately, causes you to be super self-conscious, and it makes you feel more aware of how people perceive you. So while many people don't notice my stutter, I'm very much conscious about it today. Generally, I'm in control, but I do slip up every now and then. And I found out that careers are a bit of a sticky subject for stutterers. Going on interviews, being in the workplace is a little harder for those that stutter. So I decided a long time ago that I really don't want to be held back by these things, by my stutter, and I'd rather speak as to who I am. And that's part of the reason why I'm here today at Toastmasters, is to become a better speaker. So I have to say, for the guests here today, only for one, I'm sorry, really, if I can speak up here as a stutterer, somebody that quite literally has a problem stuttering, speaking, then anybody can speak as well. So hopefully that's an inspiration for you to join. And that brings us to our final point. What can you do when you encounter a stutterer? Many people don't know what to do. They don't understand stuttering. Hopefully the information I've given you today, you now understand stuttering a little bit better. So the impatient look on people's faces is probably the worst part about it. So I recommend just giving them your attention. Listen to what they have to say. Do not interrupt them. And most importantly, don't finish their sentences. Just be patient. That's really the best thing you can do. And that kind of reminds me of a story. A couple of years ago, I was at a wedding. And of course, at a wedding, you have to introduce yourself. So, as I mentioned, introducing myself has been the most biggest obstacle in my life. So I was with a group of friends, and a guest enters the circle of our friends, and she starts firing off the question, "What's your name? What's your name?" "I'm Stacy." And I freeze in my tracks. I'm really not prepared for that. And as I'm watching my friends say their names, like a wave coming towards me, and the wave finally gets to me, I couldn't say my name. Eventually, some friend of mine in the circle intervened and told them what my name was, but at that moment, it was really, I hadn't had that happen for quite a while, so it was a little jarring. There's times where, in the past, where instead of saying my real name, I would say some other name because it was easier to say. T's, W's, certain letters are hard to do, so I would just spit out another name. If you really didn't know who I am, I would say Scott. It's easier that way. So as I mentioned, my advice, be interested, don't interrupt, finish your sentence, don't finish their sentences, be patient. And if you have somebody in your life that's a stutterer, tell them to just let their stutter be out there, because holding it in and keeping yourself in is not really going to help your inner voice. You really need to speak more. So today I've told you a background on stuttering, some facts about stuttering. I've told you my personal story about stuttering, and I've given you some advice on how to deal with stutters. Not deal, but help the stutter in your life. So next time if you have a Larry come to your door, or somebody else, certainly let them speak to you and give them your ear. I don't Toastmasters.